The alliance that never was. The Galactic Confederation had enjoyed 5 centuries of unprecedented peace. 7 advanced species had formed an elegant system of governance, resource sharing, and cultural exchange. Their protocols were refined. Through thousands of diplomatic sessions, their technology evolved through careful cooperation, and their borders expanded through methodical exploration. The Confederation was the pinnacle of civilization, deliberate, rational, and cautious. Humanity had joined barely 40 years ago. They were brash newcomers, still bearing the psychological scars of their tumultuous planetary history. The other species regarded humans with a mixture of fascination and concern. They moved too quickly, acted too impulsively, and asked too many difficult questions. But the Confederation's mandate was inclusion, so Earth was granted provisional membership with the understanding that humans would, in time, learn the proper way of things. Commander Alara Chen never believed that day would come. Standing on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force vessel Thunderbolt, she watched the holographic display tracking the distress signals emanating from the Xerillian colony on Novus Prime. The elegant, crystalline Xerillians were among the oldest Confederation members, their civilization having achieved spaceflight when humans were still using steam engines. "How many signals now?" Chen asked, her dark eyes fixed on the pulsing red indicators. Lieutenant Marcus Rivera, her communications officer, shook his head. "Dropping rapidly, Commander. 43, 39. We're losing them by the second. And Confederation. Response?" "The Alarmy have scheduled an emergency council session for next week. The Vosarians are compiling historical data on similar incursions. The Xerillians are requesting all colonies implement evacuation protocol Zeta 9. Chen ran a hand through her short black hair, a gesture her crew recognized as mounting frustration. "Evacuation timeline? 3 standard days for full implementation." The red dots on the display continued to vanish. Whatever was attacking the colony wasn't going to wait 3 days or even 3 hours. "Any visual on the attackers?" Chen asked. "Science." Officer Dahlia Wong brought up the limited footage transmitted from the colony's automated defenses. The grainy images showed dark, angular shapes moving with fluid precision, cutting through Xerillian structures like they were made of paper. "The Void Hunters," Wong said quietly. "Just like at Proxima Centauri and Kepler 22. The Void Hunters had appeared seemingly out of nowhere 6 months ago. They weren't a species, but rather some kind of autonomous weapons platform, self-replicating, machines that targeted settlements, stripped them for resources, and disappeared. The Confederation had documented each attack meticulously, analyzed patterns extensively, and debated responses thoroughly, and done absolutely nothing. "What's our distance to Novus Prime?" Chen asked. Navigation Officer Jin Park responded immediately. 4 hours at maximum FTL, Commander. "And the nearest Confederation vessel?" "The Vosarian diplomatic cruiser Eternal Dialogue is 17 hours away. They're observing standard protocols and awaiting Confederation consensus before changing course." Chen stared at the vanishing signals. Each one represented dozens, perhaps hundreds of Xerillians, crystalline beings with 1,000-year lifespans, extensive cultural archives, and families that spanned centuries, disappearing one by one. "Set course for Novus Prime. Maximum speed," she ordered. The bridge fell silent. It was Rivera who finally spoke. "Commander, Confederation protocols explicitly forbid military intervention without Council approval. We're supposed to maintain our patrol route and submit observations through proper channels." Chen turned to face her crew, her expression resolute. "Note in the ship's log that I am overriding standard protocols under Emergency Directive 7, citing imminent threat to Confederation citizens." Emergency Directive 7 was the human addition to Confederation law. The act now, apologize later. Clause that the other species had reluctantly accepted but never expected to be used. "The Thunderbolt is a patrol vessel, Commander," Tactical Officer Layla Kapoor pointed out. "We're not equipped for full combat against an unknown enemy." "We're better equipped than the civilians on Novus Prime," Chen replied. "And, apparently, we're the only ones willing to find out what these Void Hunters are really made of. Execute course change." As the Thunderbolt surged toward Novus Prime, Chen sent a message to Earth Command explaining her decision, then opened a channel to the Confederation Council. Her message was brief. Earth Defense Force responding to Nova's Prime distress call. Request any available assets join us. We'll transmit tactical data as acquired. The response came within minutes. The alarmy counselor's melodious voice conveyed polite disapproval. Commander Chen, your initiative is noted but premature. Please maintain position until proper analysis is complete. The Council will render a decision on appropriate action. Within the standard deliberation window, Chen simply acknowledged receipt and closed the channel. When the Thunderbolt arrived at Novus Prime, the devastation was already extensive. The colony's outer habitation rings had been completely dismantled, their materials absorbed by the swarm of angular obsidian-like constructs that moved with unsettling coordination. Life signs? Chen asked as the Thunderbolt maintained position just outside the colony's orbital path. Concentrated in the central administrative complex, Wang reported. Maybe 200 survivors. The complex has reinforced shielding, but it's failing sector by sector. I give them 30 minutes at most. Chen studied the tactical display. The Void Hunters hadn't yet acknowledged the Thunderbolt's presence. They operated like a hive of insects, methodical and single-minded. Weapons analysis? She asked Kapoor. The constructs appear to use some form of molecular disassembly, breaking down materials at their atomic bonds. No conventional energy weapons detected. Their outer shells are composed of an ultra-dense composite material, similar to carbon nanotubing but far more advanced. Weaknesses? Kapoor hesitated. Unknown, Commander. We'd need to engage to gather more data. Chen nodded. Then let's engage. Target the clusters nearest the administrative complex. Fire pattern alpha, full spread. The Thunderbolt's railguns came to life, launching hyper-accelerated projectiles at the Void Hunters. The first salvo tore through several of the constructs, sending fragments spinning into space. Direct hits, Kapoor confirmed. Minimal structural integrity in the smaller units. But the response was immediate. As one, the swarm shifted, a portion breaking away and moving with alarming speed toward the Thunderbolt. Evasive maneuvers, Chen ordered. Continue firing. Focus on disrupting their coordination patterns. What followed was 40 minutes of the most intense combat the Thunderbolt's crew had ever experienced. The Void Hunters attacked relentlessly, attempting to latch onto the hull and begin their disassembly process. The ship's point defense systems worked overtime, destroying the constructs before they could make sustained contact. Meanwhile, Chen dispatched 3 shuttles, each piloted by Marines to evacuate the survivors from the administrative complex. It was a desperate gambit. The shuttles were vulnerable, their only protection coming from the Thunderbolt's covering fire. First shuttle docked with the complex, Rivera reported. They're beginning evacuation. Chen watched the tactical display. As one of the shuttles took damage, its engines flickering. Divert additional power to the shields. We need to hold this position until everyone's out. The Thunderbolt shuddered as a cluster of Void Hunters impacted the port side. Warning lights flashed across multiple stations. Hull breach on deck 4, Park called out. Emergency containment holding. Reroute power from non-essential systems, Chen ordered. Keep those shuttles protected at all costs. For the Xerillians trapped in the administrative complex, the arrival of the human vessel had been both shocking and confounding. Their evacuation protocols required patient waiting until properly authorized extraction could be implemented. The sudden appearance of human Marines with their urgent shouting and physical pushing violated every cultural norm. Yet as the colony's administrator, Crystalline Resonance, later noted in his report, the humans' chaotic methodology, while deeply disturbing to our sensibilities, proved unexpectedly efficient under the circumstances. The evacuation was completed with minutes to spare. All 3 shuttles, damaged but functional, returned to the Thunderbolt with 189 Xerillian survivors. The ship itself had sustained significant damage. Nearly 30% of its outer hull had been compromised, and multiple systems were operating on emergency power. Breaking contact, Chen ordered as the last shuttle docked. Get us out of the system. As the Thunderbolt limped away from Novus Prime, The Void Hunters returned to their systematic dismantling of what remained of the colony. Their behavior suggested they had no interest in pursuit. Their only goal was consumption of the colony's resources. In the ship's medical bay, Chen visited the Xerillian administrator. The crystalline being's normally luminescent surface was dulled with stress and injury. "Your intervention was highly irregular, Commander," Resonance said, the translation software converting the Xerillian's harmonic speech into standard English. "The Confederation protocols clearly dictate—" "With all due respect," Chen interrupted, "your people would be dead if we'd followed those protocols." The administrator's crystals shifted slightly, the Xerillian equivalent of uncomfortable acknowledgement. "Nevertheless, there are procedures for responding to conventional threats, yes. But the Void Hunters have hit 3 colonies in 6 months, and the Confederation is still at the documentation stage. How many more colonies will be lost while the Council deliberates?" Resonance was silent for a moment. "You humans have a different perception of time. For species with lifespans measuring centuries, careful consideration is prudent." "Death doesn't care about lifespans," Chen said. "And those constructs aren't filing impact assessments before they tear apart your people." When the Thunderbolt arrived at Earth Defense Force headquarters, the diplomatic fallout was already in full swing. The Confederation Council had issued formal reprimands, citing Chen's unauthorized military action as a violation of at least 12 different protocols. Earth's representatives were scrambling to prevent the incident from affecting their provisional membership status. Admiral Hansen, Chen's commanding officer, was waiting when she disembarked. His weathered face was set in a carefully neutral expression. "You've created quite the diplomatic incident, Commander," he said as they walked toward the debriefing room. "I saved 189 lives, sir." "Yes, you did. And broken numerous protocols in the process." "Permission to speak freely, sir." Hansen nodded. "The protocols are getting people killed. The Void Hunters have hit 3 colonies, and each time the Confederation has responded with meetings and data collection. At this rate, they'll have a comprehensive analysis ready just in time for there to be no colonies left to save." They reached the debriefing room, but Hansen paused before opening the door. "The Confederation species have maintained peace for 5 centuries, Commander. Their methodical approach has prevented countless conflicts. We joined their community knowing their ways were different from ours." "Different doesn't mean better," Chen replied. "Not when facing an enemy like this." Hansen studied her for a moment. "The official response to your actions will be a formal reprimand and temporary suspension from command. Unofficially," he lowered his voice, "we've received communications from representatives of several Confederation worlds. Private communications." Chen raised an eyebrow. "It seems," Hansen continued, "that while the Council publicly condemns your actions, there are those who were impressed by humanity's willingness to act decisively. The Xerillians, in particular, have expressed their gratitude in channels outside the official Council records." "What are you saying, sir?" "I'm saying that sometimes being the troublemakers in the room has its advantages, Commander. Report for your debriefing, take your reprimand, and stand by for new orders. This situation with the Void Hunters is far from over." As Chen entered the debriefing room, she couldn't help but reflect on humanity's unique position in the Confederation. Perhaps they would never fully integrate into the careful, methodical approach of the other species. Perhaps they weren't meant to. In a galaxy that had forgotten how to respond to imminent danger, maybe what was needed was a species that still remembered how to fight. The monsters. Unit 3 months after the Novus Prime incident, Commander Elara Chen found herself in the uncomfortable position of being simultaneously disciplined and deployed. Her official record now contained a severe reprimand for protocol violations, and she had been required to complete a comprehensive course on Confederation diplomatic procedures. Yet here she was, back in command of the Thunderbolt, newly repaired and upgraded, patrolling the exact same sector where she had intervened. The unofficial reality was quite different from the official record. In the wake of Novus Prime, something unexpected had happened. Something that couldn't be found in any Confederation documentation or acknowledged in any council session. The aliens had started calling for humans. Another transmission, Commander, Lieutenant Rivera reported. Encrypted on the frequency you specified. Chen nodded. Put it through to my private terminal. This would be the 5th such message this week. They came from colonial governors, planetary defense coordinators, even mid-level Confederation bureaucrats, all reaching out through unofficial channels, all with variations of the same request. If the Void Hunters come to our world, will Earth send help? The Confederation Council remained locked in deliberation. They had formed 3 separate committees to analyze the Void Hunter threat. One focused on origin theories, another on defensive strategies, and a third on diplomatic outreach, possibilities in case the constructs could somehow be communicated with. Their projected timeline for a unified response strategy was 18 months. Meanwhile, the Void Hunters had struck 2 more colonies. We've received updated intelligence from Outpost Gamma, Science Officer Wong reported. The attack pattern remains consistent with previous incursions. The hunters appear, consume all available resources, then vanish. No apparent FTL signatures detected during arrival or departure. Chen studied the data. They must have some method of faster-than-light travel. They're covering too much distance otherwise. Unless, Wong suggested, they're not traveling at all. What if they're already everywhere they intend to attack, just dormant until activated? It was an unsettling thought. The Void Hunters as some kind of sleeper agents, planted throughout Confederation space, awaiting some signal to awaken. The unofficial network that had developed around human ships had been dubbed the Contingency Protocol by Admiral Hansen, ATI, deliberately bland name to avoid attracting Council attention. Earth vessels were strategically positioned near high-value Confederation worlds, maintaining their official patrol routes, but prepared to respond rapidly if Void Hunters appeared. Meanwhile, Earth scientists worked feverishly to understand the enemy. Based on fragments recovered from the Novus Prime battle, they had determined that the Hunters were ancient technology, possibly millions of years old, with systems that self-improved over time. Their purpose remained unclear, but their threat was undeniable. Commander, Rivera interrupted her thoughts. Emergency transmission from Caluthia Prime. They're under attack. Caluthia Prime was a major alarmy world, home to over 7 million of the bird-like beings and a significant cultural center. Time to intercept? Chen asked. 3 hours at maximum FTL, Park responded. Any other Earth vessels closer? Rivera checked the network. Negative, Commander. We're the nearest contingency asset. Chen didn't hesitate. Set course for Caluthia Prime. Maximum speed. Alert Admiral Hansen through secure channels. And notify any Confederation vessels in our path that we're conducting emergency drills requiring rapid transit. The emergency drill excuse had become standard procedure, a way to explain human ships moving quickly without directly admitting they were violating protocols. As the Thunderbolt raced toward Caluthia Prime, Chen reviewed everything they'd learned about the Void Hunters. Each encounter provided more data, and a pattern was emerging. The Hunters always targeted the same types of infrastructure first: power generation, then communication hubs, then manufacturing facilities. They seemed to prioritize technology over raw materials. What if they're not just consuming resources? Chen mused aloud. What if they're gathering intelligence? Wong looked up from her station. You mean studying our technology before destroying it? Exactly. Each colony they hit has different technological specialties. Novus Prime was known for molecular engineering. Proxima Centauri was a quantum computing hub. Kepler-22 specialized in gravitational manipulation. And Caluthia Prime is the center for Confederation AI research, Wong realized. Chen nodded. They're not random attacks. They're targeted acquisition of specific technologies. When the Thunderbolt arrived at Caluthia Prime, the situation was already dire. The Void Hunters had surrounded the Central Research Facility, a massive complex dedicated to artificial intelligence development. Unlike previous attacks, they weren't dismantling the structure but appeared to be interfacing with it. Life signs in the facility? Chen asked. Over 3,000, Wong confirmed. Mostly Alarmy, some representatives from other Confederation species. Any response to our arrival? Kapoor monitored the tactical display. Negative, Commander. They're completely focused on the facility. Different behavior than we've seen before. Chen made a quick decision. Prepare a strike team. We're going to insert directly into the facility while the hunters are distracted. I want to know what they're after. You're leading the team personally? Rivera asked, surprised. This is our best chance to gather intelligence on what these things actually want, Chen replied, and possibly save thousands of lives in the process. Lieutenant Park, you have the bridge. 20 minutes later, Chen was leading a team of 12 Marines through the service tunnels beneath the Kaluthia Central Research Facility. The Alarmy security chief, Flutter Wings of Dawn, guided them through the labyrinthine passages. The main AI core is 5 levels up, the Alarmy explained, her feathered crest flattened in distress. The hunters breached the outer security rings 30 minutes ago. Our defensive measures were ineffective. What's so special about your AI core? Chen asked as they moved swiftly through the tunnels. Flutter hesitated. It's not information I'm authorized to share with non-Alarmy personnel. Chen stopped abruptly. We're risking our lives to save your people. This isn't the time for Confederation secrecy protocols. The Alarmy's compound eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of internal conflict. Finally, she spoke. The core contains an AI construct recovered from deep space 50 years ago. Ancient technology, possibly millions of years old. We've been studying it under the highest security classifications. Chen felt a chill. And you didn't think to mention this when the Void Hunters first appeared? Technology millions of years old, just like them. The Council determined there was insufficient evidence to establish a connection. Flutter replied defensively. Further study was required before sharing such sensitive information. Further study, Chen muttered. While colonies died, they reached a maintenance shaft that would take them up to the AI core level. As they began to climb, the facility shuddered around them. Structural integrity compromised in Sectors 7 through 12, Flutter reported, reading data from her wrist device. The hunters are spreading throughout the facility. When they finally reached the AI core chamber, the scene was chaos. Several Void Hunters had breached the room, their angular forms connecting directly to the massive quantum computing array that dominated the center. Alarmy scientists huddled behind makeshift barricades trapped by the invaders. Hold position, Chen ordered her team. Let's see what they're doing before we engage. The Void Hunters weren't dismantling the AI core as expected. Instead, they appeared to be downloading information, or possibly uploading something. The core's displays flickered with symbols unlike any Confederation language. That's not standard data transfer, noted Sergeant Diaz, the team's tech specialist. It looks more like communion. Suddenly, all the facility's displays activated simultaneously. A voice, deep, resonant, and distinctly non-organic, filled the chamber. Connection reestablished. Primary directive resumed. Chen glanced at Flutter. Is that your AI talking? The Alarmy's feathers were fully erect in alarm. That is not our research subject. We've never successfully activated its vocal protocols. The voice continued. Seeking creators, analyzing current technological status of occupying species. Chen made a quick decision. Stepping out from cover, she addressed the entities directly. This is Commander Alara Chen of Earth. Who are you, and what is your primary directive? The Void Hunters rotated in perfect unison, their obsidian surfaces reflecting the chamber's emergency lighting. The voice emanated not from them, but from the facility's communication systems. Designation: Sentinel Network. Primary directive: preserve creator technology until return. Current status: awakened from dormancy due to detection of creator-level technological advancement. And the attacks on our colonies? Chen pressed. The people you've killed? Organic life forms utilizing creator technology without authorization. Reclamation necessary. Organic resistance categorized as hostile intent. Flutter stepped forward. The technology is ours, developed independently over centuries. Analysis indicates 62% of current Confederation technology derived from creator artifacts. Unauthorized utilization. Reclamation justified. Chen's mind raced. The Confederation had indeed built much of its technological base on artifacts discovered throughout their expansion, ancient relics from a civilization long vanished. They had never questioned where these artifacts came from or whether using them might trigger some kind of security system. A security system like the Sentinel network. What if we could prove that we're developing our own path, Chen asked, that we're not simply copying your creator's technology? There was a pause, the first hesitation the Sentinels had shown. Verification required. Current Confederation technological development paths show 94% correlation with creator trajectories. Not all species in the Confederation follow the same path, Chen said. Humans have developed differently. We've taken different approaches, made different choices. Human technological signature shows significant deviation, 47% correlation with creator patterns. Anomalous. Chen saw an opening. We're willing to share our development approaches with you, to show that organic life can find new paths, not just reclaim old ones. Another pause. Longer this time. Proposal requires evaluation. Data exchange acceptable. What followed was perhaps the strangest first contact scenario in human history. While Confederation diplomats would have spent years preparing for such an exchange, Chen and her team improvised on the spot. They connected their suit databases to the facility's systems, uploading information about Earth's technological development, its false starts, its unexpected innovations, its unique approaches to problems the Confederation had solved differently. The Sentinel network absorbed this information with remarkable speed. After 17 minutes, it spoke again. Analysis complete. Human technological development shows independent creativity outside creator parameters. This suggests potential for new evolutionary paths. So you'll stop attacking our colonies? Chen asked directly. Reclamation operations suspended pending comprehensive review. Creator directive allows for exceptions in cases of unique development. Flutter was astonished. Just like that? Centuries of Confederation diplomatic protocols, and you resolve this with a 17-minute data dump? Chen shrugged. Sometimes direct communication works better than committees. As the Void Hunters, now known to be Sentinels, disengaged from the facility and retreated to orbit, Chen opened a channel to the Thunderbolt. Park, inform Admiral Hansen that we've established communication with the Sentinel network. The immediate threat has been neutralized, but we'll need a full diplomatic team to formalize the arrangement. Understood, Commander, Park replied. And the Confederation Council? Chen glanced at Flutter, who was still processing what had happened. Tell them humanity would be honored to share our unique perspective on technological development at their next scheduled session. In the days that followed, as news of the encounter spread throughout Confederation space, Chen found herself at the center of an unprecedented diplomatic situation. The Council was simultaneously outraged at her protocol violations and desperate to understand how she had succeeded where their careful deliberations had failed. At a private reception on Earth, Chen found herself approached by representatives from every Confederation species. The Alarmy counselor, Skysong at Dawn, addressed her directly. Your methods remain deeply concerning, Commander, the bird-like being said, her translator converting the melodic speech to standard. Yet we cannot deny their effectiveness in this situation. Sometimes, Chen replied, the established way isn't the only way. Indeed, the Alarmy conceded. The Confederation has existed for 5 centuries by carefully maintaining stability. Perhaps we had forgotten how to adapt. Chen smiled slightly. That's what humans are good for, reminding everyone that there's always another approach. As the reception continued, Chen noticed Admiral Hansen beckoning her to a private alcove. He looked simultaneously troubled and amused. You've managed to rewrite Confederation diplomatic protocols single-handedly, he said. The Council is establishing a new rapid response initiative for emerging threats. Let me guess, Chen said. They want humans to lead it. Hansen nodded. Unofficially, of course, they're calling it Cultural Consultation on Alternative Intervention Methodologies. Chen laughed. A fancy way of saying they want the scary humans around when things get dangerous. Precisely. Hansen's expression grew more serious. The Sentinel Network has agreed to a full technological exchange with the Confederation, provided humans oversee the process. They seem to trust our developmental creativity, as they put it, so we've gone from the Confederation's problem children to their essential partners in less than a year. Sometimes, Hansen said, echoing Chen's earlier words, you need someone willing to break the rules when the rules aren't working anymore. As Chen looked out at the gathering, representatives of ancient, refined civilizations mingling with humans barely a century into their spacefaring history, she reflected on humanity's unique role in the galactic community. They would never be the wisest or the most patient species. Their lifespans were too short, their history too turbulent, their instincts too primed for immediate action. But in a galaxy that had grown comfortable with its careful protocols and measured responses, perhaps what was needed was a species that still remembered how to face the unknown with both determination and creativity, a species willing to act when others would only deliberate. The scary humans who showed up to help,